Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you at this time, Master Sergeant, retired Nicholas Heier.
Okay, so you might want to hold your applause for the end. Something really cool about this building is that I was actually going to go to school here, and then 9/11, and I was still going to go to school here, but I think you said, I forget what you said, sir. You said something like the dedication, but it was really just impatience and impulsiveness. And so I enlisted instead. So it's an interesting to come full circle and now be standing here. All right. Before I get started with what I want to say, I need you all to know the point is to say thank you. In my 20-year career, this is only the 6th time that I've put on my dress blues. And today is to thank you. I know I can be a pain in the ass. I know that I'm an acquired taste, dry as a piece of plain toast. I know that it's hard to tell whether I'm taking things seriously or as a joke or both. I am aware. And most of the time, it's a pain in the ass for me too. But you kept me around anyway, and for that, I'm grateful. If you are here physically, virtually, or in spirit, it's because I asked you to be and you agreed. I only would have asked you because you mean something to me. You are giants. You are bedrock. You are nature. You are world changers, superheroes, and doers. And it is important for me to say thank you. A commander once told me there are 2 types of people in this world, those who snuff other people's candles and to make their own burn brighter, and those who light other people's candles to make the world burn brighter. And maybe he alluded that I was the former, but I trust that you would understand that I only ever wanted to be the latter. And what I know about achieving great things, or really anything, the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. And I know this because it is a very simple law. I especially want to thank my family, Crystal, Matilda, Emilia, Miles, Lucas. Thank you. Whenever people say things like thank you for your service or thank you for your sacrifice, so much of those words, that has been your burden too. To my parents, my siblings, my family, and my dear old friends, you have known me since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and you said goodbye to me 3 days after high school. You shared this burden too. To all who I've come to know over these past 20 years, we have, and still do, shoulder these burdens together. We are always beside one another. And what's incredible to me now is that you're all here. And to all of you from this next chapter, we're just getting started. And where we're going and what we'll do together, it is exciting and it is compelling. And to my command for entertaining these notions and sending me off right, this is exemplary work. Thank you all so much. I couldn't imagine a better moment than this for laying our burdens down, even if just a moment. The other thing I need you to know before I get started is that Kurt Vonnegut is one of those authors I tend to revisit, and his words have heavily influenced what I want to say. And if you've read Breakfast of Champions, then you might recall when Kilgore Trout comes across this rhetoric scribbled on the wall of a men's room. It asked, "What is the purpose of life?" Had he had something to write back with, Kilgore Trout would have answered, "To be the eyes and the ears and the conscience of the creator of the universe, you fool." Maybe you'd remember that Kilgore Trout, as the eyes and the ears and the conscience of the creator of the universe, periodically sent updates to the creator of the universe about the state of things as he found them to be. And that's what this is. That's how I want to say what I want to say. I put it into a situation report, a sit rep to the creator of the universe about the state of things as I found them to be. And my sit rep is mostly nonsense. Just fair warning, okay? It's irreverent and it is an inconsiderate use of your time. And I know that. There are 4 main sections. At least one contains gratuitous reference to genitalia. Sorry. The parts that aren't nonsensical, I lifted them from the pages of Vonnegut and other writers whom I occasionally revisit. And maybe you'll recognize some of those words. Maybe you'll find yourself intrigued and you might catch something neat. Maybe my sit rep will kindle a desire and you will find yourself in some of the pages from which I borrowed. Maybe you will zone out every other 9 seconds. But the point is, someone else said it better and they deserve some credit. And I just collected their words and I rearranged them for you in a way that some might say, I rearranged them for you in a way that they might say something valuable in a novel way. And some would know this practice as innovation. And it's not too far from the way evolution works. You would know it as simply a weird Nick Heier thing to do. So I hope my sit rep makes it to the creator of the universe and that the creator of the universe will find it valuable. But the point is, all I wanted to say was thanks. So just so you know, 1812 is the SSIC code for an enlisted retirement. I use the civilian date format as I'm now retired. The creator of the universe, or to the creator of the universe from Master Sergeant Nicholas Heier, USMC, retired. Subject, situation report at 2/5 of the way through a 100-year life as a human being on planet Earth. Topic, in the beginning. How much do you know about what humans say or what human beings say happened in the beginning? This is a version of the beginning that I'm most familiar with because the humans I know repeat and refer to something like it very often. In the beginning, there was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was truth, and God was the creator of the universe. And then, in the beginning, from the formless and empty void, God spoke. And maybe it sounded like this. Yahweh. And then there was light, ever spreading over the surface of the deep, and maybe it sounded like this. Om. I have some of my yoga friends in the audience, so that was for you. And once God had laid the cornerstone of the universe, while the morning stars sang, it followed that a series of tendencies, some very simple laws that govern the universe by design or by accident, led to us being here, and here we are. We are here. Just here, being human. And maybe this is just a story we tell ourselves, but as a working theory, it's good enough. In a simple-minded view, a theory is just a model of the universe that we use to explain what we can observe. And for a theory to be considered good, it must inform predictions, and it must contain only a few arbitrary elements. But here lies the crux, a fundamental dilemma for humans pursuing all kinds of science, because the universe is quite complex. Actions based on theory tend to produce far-reaching consequences that make the future impossible to predict. And so it goes. Simple measures tend to be counterproductive, but simple measures are about the only measures that humans achieve with any reliability. And the institutional humans, especially those in government institutions like militaries, base their actions on assumptions that are either inconsistent or invalidated by the simple laws of the universe. A theory is good when it describes something hard in a simple way, the way an artist might. So maybe a good theory is just a work of art. And anyone who has met the platypus might agree that the creator of the universe is a quite talented artist. The platypus is a semi-aquatic mammal that lays eggs and is not too unlike a torpedo-shaped mole. To the platypus, the universe is often solitary and a very murky place for being. The platypus is endemic to the muddy waters of Eastern Australia, and it navigates by electroreceptors. It has webbed feet and venomous spurs, and its mouth is a flattened bill that resembles a duck's. When the Western world humans first heard reports of meeting the platypus, they insisted that the platypus must be a hoax. Another good theory comes from the intellectual humans who bolted high-power optics to hunks of metal and launched these heaps into orbit to better peer into the void. These optics could sense electromagnetic radiation from very far away and produce the highest resolution images of the universe that anyone on Earth had ever seen. And by studying these images, the intellectuals concluded that the universe will be ever expanding, and that any universe which is ever expanding must expand outward from a single point of origin, which is infinitesimally small and infinitely dense. Almost despite the Stoics, who said that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, these intellectuals decided that it doesn't matter at all what beginning's end led to this beginning's beginning, because all simple laws simply break down at the unified point of origin of the universe. And therefore, any beginning before this beginning would hold no consequence over the simple laws of this universe. These intellectuals would say that this universe may or may not have had a creator, but it doesn't matter much either way, because I also have it on good theory that the universe never did make sense, and I suspect it was built on government contract. The story so far. In the beginning, the universe was created, and this has made a lot of people very angry and been widely regarded as a bad move. 2, stories. Human beings tell stories to encode large amounts of complex information about the universe in a simple way. Stories are also works of art. They complement the already incredible incredible amounts of information encoded in human genomes. Groups of humans with better stories are more effective at being than groups of humans whose stories aren't at least very interesting. Storytelling humans make people more efficient with their energy and resources, and especially their time. Storytelling avoids risk by informing humans of what they should and should not do, so that humans never have to experience either by mistake. And storytellers deposit agency, collaboration, and fear in their stories. And by these elements, humans encode the notions of self and us and them. Stories create heroes by encoding the hero's journey. Yeah, that's Murray. All humans being on a journey of roughly 100 years on planet Earth might very much like to be the hero of somebody else's story. The best stories on Earth once concerned the hero with nature. Those stories were legend and myth and lore. Humans shared those stories in the temples of their fathers before they tore those temples down to make room for newer, better stories and parking lots. The best stories today are likely advertisements, and they concern the hero with feelings of inadequacy. Another type of story that humans will tell is the war story. Most war stories are works of fiction, in part because humans only ever remember fragments of whatever truly happened, and in part because true war stories are often embarrassing. War stories are for joining the past to future. There is a difference between a true war story and the story of any war hero. And there's a lot to say about any war hero, but there's nothing much to say about true war stories, except maybe, oh. If I were to tell you, that's a prompt, you can sing along. If I were to tell you my war stories, they'd be true. They'd have no hero and they'd have no moral. They'd be about benjo cats and the pistachios in Herat and fried fish in the Helmand and Iraqi septic tanks and the microeconomics of bananas in Okinawa circa 2005. I would tell you, that was for the Marines. I would tell you about the pinball machines in Portland, encounters with cake eaters and job keepers, and the pros and cons of karaoke in Southeast Asia. My war stories would contain elephants. Elephants are especially large communal mammals. They love fruits and grass and don't care much for tourists. Elephant physiology defies many of the simple laws that limit mammalian scale. On account of their size and how much fuel they need, elephants might spontaneously combust from the heat of their own digestion were it not for the cooling apparatuses of their wrinkles and their ears. They are inconceivably quiet when trouncing through the jungle, and their prehensile trunks make quick work of breaking brush. As you get older, it is harder to have heroes, but it is sort of necessary. And here is a picture of a female human superhero. On standards, morale, and discipline, This is a true war story. Okay, get ready for this. And sir, I'm sorry. Male humans have pendulous genitalia called a penis. They use their penises for many things, but especially for imagining strength and virility in comparisons of self and us and them. The average human penis is at most 5.16 inches in length and 4.59 inches in girth. I have it on good theory that some say that the male humans of the military institution known as the United States Marine Corps have a standard penis size of at least 8 inches in length and 6 inches in girth. Navy SEALs have great hair. By legend, Marine humans have larger penises because of Chesty Puller, who is also a male Marine and a war hero of the Corps. And for this reason, Marines always dedicate one extra repetition of any physical training exercise to each Chesty Puller and the Corps. A common dilemma for male Marines is that some spend more time in cold water than others. And this causes misperceptions about their strength and virility in comparisons of self and us and them. I am a male Marine who in 2008 deployed to Iraq. And that same year, a human named Barack Obama won the presidential election for the United States of America. I saw clips of the inauguration replayed on the Armed Forces Network. I moved around between outposts in Fallujah, and I can't remember their names, but I do remember that the dry goods lockers had blueberry Pop-Tarts and rodents. The freezer contents suffered freezer burn, and the mail was painfully slow. At the outpost where I saw the clips of President Obama's inauguration, the honey truck hadn't come by in some time, and there was a yellow porta shitter, which had better walls for scribbling rhetoric and works of art. Its well had become filled far beyond its capacity, and the dock human said we shouldn't use the yellow porta shitter anymore. And the dock human decided that the humans of that outpost should instead use these prepackaged kits containing plastic bags with absorbent. These kits were called wag bags. Once a wag bag is full, it can be tied off and transported in a Marine's cargo pocket until it might be disposed of, usually by tossing the wag bag into a burn pit, where the very simple laws of the universe might cause them to explode. We ran 3 or 4 dismounted patrols per day from that outpost, and I especially liked the pre-dawn patrols. That was when the air went from stale to crisp, and I could hear the mullah humans calling each other to prayer from their towers. And once inaugurated, President Obama, whose title was Commander-in-Chief, ordered the demilitarization of outposts like that one, and we all got pulled back to the battalion headquarters at Camp Bahariya, which was once a leisure resort for the boss who ruled the country before the US military moved there. There wasn't much left to do for the remainder of that deployment, and we built for ourselves a terrific gym. We lifted heavy weights twice a day and watched every episode of television shows called Smallville and Desperate Housewives, because that's what came in the boxes that people sent to us from back home. Humans who wanted to express their support for the troops, but were probably strangers to most, if not all of the troops, us and them. They sent DVDs of recorded television shows from the United States packaged with white tube socks in cardboard boxes, and the Postal Service carried them to us for free. But this was a deployment in which white tube socks were not allowed. The Marines considered white tube socks to be out of regulation, and such were beards and cuff sleeves and beanies passed on. During this deployment, I lifted heavy weights and to increase my mass, and I achieved a bulk of 235 pounds. And this was the strongest I ever got and the heaviest I ever got, but then I too was considered to be out of regulation. Because the Marine Corps says that male Marines with a height of 69 inches will not weigh more than 189 pounds, and the Marine in charge of the Corps at this time, General Conway, whose title was Commandant, upon the good theory of his senior enlisted, who was a Marine named Sergeant Major Kent, and whose title was Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, had recently edited these simple laws of the Marine Corps so that male Marines whose height was between 68.5 inches and 69.4 inches, and whose weight was more than 189 pounds, would be, with due process, unceremoniously and involuntarily exited from the Marine Corps. Also by regulation, the humans from Uganda, who had been hired by government contract to provide internal security on the camp, were the only humans allowed to be fully armed on Camp Bahariya. And when Ugandan humans greet other humans, it sounds like this: Jumbo. For the Marines who had been pulled back to Camp Bahria, live ammunition that found its way into the chambers of firearms for which they were designed was considered to be out of regulation. One of the duties of the Ugandans was to inspect the conditions of firearms upon entry to facilities such as the chow hall. It might be that another duty of Ugandans was to greet every human that they met, armed or unarmed. Many Marines consider Camp Baharia's chow hall to be a good place to eat. And a good theory for this was that the Camp Baharia Chow Hall served Baskin-Robbins ice cream to Marines 4 meals a day, and nothing was freezer burnt. When the Commandant came to visit us on that deployment, I held opinions about their edits to the regulations that standardize height and weight for Marines. I had read about these edits in a newspaper called the Marine Corps Times while conducting business in that yellow quarter shitter before it became too full. I happened chance myself upon the Commandant and Sergeant Major that evening at Camp Baharia Chow Hall, seeking close conference over a larger helping of Baskin-Robbins. And I, curious and concerned, and they, tired and higher ranking, this was the Sergeant Major's response. Devil dog, devil dog, devil dog. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, well, devil dog, it's a fat kid. And we are trying to get rid of that. I have it on good theory. Most birds, oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah, so you got that. All right. I have it on good theory that most birds do not have penises. Their genitals consist of an opening in their abdomens called the cloaca, and from which nothing pendulates. Ducks, aquatic birds in the family Anatidae, hold an exemption to this simple law. Male ducks are called mallards, and the mallards of this species, known as the Argentinian bluebill, have an average penis size of 16.73 inches in length, which is about as long as the duck is itself from bill to tail. This mallard has the largest penis to body ratio of any penis-bearing animal on planet Earth. Its penis is shaped like a corkscrew and the tip works like a boar brush. One good theory explaining the length of Argentinian bluebill mallards' penises has to do with reproductive selectivity. Female ducks are called hens, and the Argentinian bluebill hens are extraordinarily picky. This probably induces a state of hyper-competition amongst Argentinian bluebill mallards, who spend much of their time flying about with plenty of clearance for pendulous genitalia. Their ultimate penis length largely depends on the standard penis size of other mallards in a flock, and so it goes. Argentinian bluebill mallards mostly use their lengthy penises for advertisements. But when needed, they can also deploy their penises as a lasso to ensnare picky hens in flight. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, we have to at least consider that we have a small aquatic bird in the family Anatidae on our hands. This is the last one. The purpose of a life, and it's short. Namaste is a word that yogi humans of the Western world sometimes say to one another. It is a greeting of sorts and a salute, and it means something like, the light in me sees the light in you. This past September, when I was some 25 miles west of a town called Shoto, where the Great Plains collide into the Rockies, and I walked beside my friends along the Old North Trail. This trail is at least 10,000 years old and stretches from northern Manitoba to Mexico. It was etched into the landscape by humans over millennia. Humans marked this trail with boulders and cairns, and every now and then you might find a ring of stones marking ancient campgrounds where the humans laid their burdens down for just a moment and set up shelters by a creek. There are ruts, clear as day, worn into the landscape of this trail by thousands of years of human migration, north to south, south to north, shouldering their burdens together and following the herds and chased by the seasons. These are the echoes of footprints, humankind's first printing press, a bold and universal headline calling into the void saying, I am here, I am here, I am here. And just a few weeks ago, I was in the Arctic, and there I stood beside a lake atop a hill that overlooked a town called Tromsø, which is sometimes called the Paris of the North. And humans have left their footprints there for at least 10,000 years as well. There by the lake, just hours before one of Tromsø's final dawns, I watched the glittering gold of that Paris below, and I peered into the vastness above, boundless and ever spreading past galaxies clear as day. At 69 degrees north latitude, when an object enters the atmosphere, it streaks right across the sky, horizon to horizon, and then some. And I could see the flames, white and blue and green, engulfing and disintegrating the objects as they burned in. And I saw the northern lights there too. They were green, bright green bands of light wavering across the sky. The northern lights are, of course, abiotic, but they feel alive. They are Yahweh, they are Om. And that feeling, as best as I can describe, is to be struck by awe. For at least 10,000 years, human beings have stood there, awestruck, beneath those lights, tapped into the main vein of the universe. And if you were to strip away everything in that moment but the self, strip away the machinery, the flabby bags of ancient plumbing and wiring and rusty hinges and feeble springs, if you were to strip me down to my bare essence, you would see just an unwavering band of light, simple and beautiful, with a singleness of purpose, standing in the echoes of 10,000 years of footprints, saying nothing except maybe, oh. But in those moments, maybe the universe answers back, as if to say, Jumbo, the light in me sees the light in you. And now I'm standing still and I'm wondering, just how long have you been there? Maybe that is what it is to be the ears and the eyes and the conscience of the creator of the universe. Or maybe that is what it is to have lived a lifetime as a Marine, where every day in the Corps is like a day on the farm. Every meal's a banquet, every paycheck's a fortune, every formation a parade. It's a full life and a merry one. A purpose of a human life, no matter who is controlling it, is to love whoever is around to be loved. And so long. Thanks for all the fish.